All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. You ready to get your learn on today?
Absolutely. Always ready to dive into some fascinating tech.
That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
And today it is all about blockchain. This one was a popular request. So many of you wanted to get a better grasp on this whole blockchain thing. And honestly, I get it. It's one of those topics that can seem a little bit, well, intimidating at first. All that talk about ledgers and cryptography and, well,
Decentralization.
yeah, exactly.
hmm
So we're going to break it all down for you today in a way that makes sense, even if you're hearing about blockchain for the very first time.
We'll try to make it as painless as possible.
Absolutely. And hey, while we're at it, let's give a huge shout out to our sponsor, techviews10x.com. They've got a ton of awesome resources if you want to keep exploring the world of tech after our deep dive. So go check them out. All right, now let's get this blockchain party started. First things first, what exactly are we talking about when we say blockchain?
So at its core, a blockchain is basically a digital record-keeping system. You can think of it like a giant digital ledger, but here's the twist. Instead of being stored in one central location like a bank or a government database, this ledger is distributed across a whole network of computers.
So it's kind of like a shared Google Doc, but way more secure, I'm guessing.
Way more secure. Each transaction that gets added to this ledger is verified by multiple computers on the network, and once a transaction is added to the blockchain, it's virtually impossible to alter or delete.
Gotcha. So it's like a tamper-proof history of everything that's ever happened on the blockchain.
Precisely, and that's what makes it so revolutionary.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal.
Yeah.
But let's walk through an example to really solidify this in my mind.
Yeah.
Let's say I want to buy something online using blockchain. What happens from start to finish?
All right, so imagine you're browsing this awesome online marketplace and you find a rare vintage comic book you just have to have. You decide to buy it using your cryptocurrency.
Ooh, nice. I do love a good vintage comic book.
So you hit that buy button, and right at that moment, the transaction is initiated. It's broadcast to the entire blockchain network.
So it's not just happening between me and the seller, it's like the whole world knows about it.
Not the whole world, but yeah, the entire network of computers that make up the blockchain are aware of this transaction.
Okay, and then what happens?
Now comes the verification process. Remember those computers I mentioned that make up the blockchain network? They act like little detectives. Each one individually checks the details of your transaction.
So they're making sure I actually have the cryptocurrency to buy this comic book, and they're making sure the seller actually owns the comic and can sell it to me.
Exactly. They're checking everything to make sure it's all legit.
And if everything checks out, then what?
Once a transaction is verified by enough of these computers, it gets grouped together with other verified transactions into what's called a block. Think of it like a little package of data.
Okay, so we've got these blocks full of verified transactions floating around, and then what happens to them?
These blocks are added to the existing blockchain in a very specific order, creating this permanent chronological record of every transaction that's ever happened.
So it's like a chain of blocks, each one linked to the one before it, and once a block is added to the chain, it's there forever.
Precisely. And this is where the whole blockchain name comes from.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got our transaction verified, bundled into a block and added to the chain. But how do we know that nobody's messing with these blocks once they're on the chain?
That's where things get really clever. Each block is given a unique digital fingerprint called a hash. It's created using a special mathematical function, and this hash is directly tied to the contents of the block.
So if even one tiny detail in a block is changed, the hash would change completely.
Exactly. It's like a super sensitive alarm system. If someone tries to tamper with the block, everyone on the network would know instantly.
Wow, that's incredibly secure. So that's how blockchain ensures that the data is accurate and tamper-proof.
You got it. It's one of the key features that makes blockchain so revolutionary.
This is fascinating. All right, so now I understand the basics of how blockchain works, but I know there's a lot more to it than just this. What else should we know?
Well, for starters, blockchain is about so much more than just cryptocurrency. Yeah, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin were some of the first and most well-known applications of blockchain technology, but its potential goes way beyond that.
Okay, so what are some other ways blockchain is being used or could be used?
Well, one really promising area is supply chain management. Imagine being able to track a product's journey from the moment it's manufactured all the way to the consumer.
So you can see every step along the way. Where it
Yep.
was made, where it was shipped, how long it's been in each location.
Exactly. And that level of transparency can be incredibly valuable. Think about things like food safety or ensuring that products are ethically sourced. Consumers are becoming increasingly interested in knowing where their products come from and how they're made.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And blockchain could give them that peace of mind.
Precisely. And it's not just about consumer goods either. Blockchain can be used to track anything that moves through a supply chain, from pharmaceuticals to diamonds to even voting records.
Wow, so blockchain could potentially make all sorts of industries more transparent and accountable.
Absolutely. And that's just one example. Another really exciting application is smart contracts.
Okay, I've heard that term thrown around.
Yeah.
But what exactly are smart contracts?
Think of them like self-executing contracts. They're basically lines of code that are stored on the blockchain, and they automatically execute when certain conditions are met.
Okay, so give me a real-world example. How could a smart contract be used?
Let's say you're a musician and you want to sell your music directly to your fans. You could create a smart contract that automatically releases your music to a buyer once they've made a payment.
So there's no need for a record label or a distributor to handle the transaction.
Exactly. The smart contract handles everything automatically.
That's amazing. So smart contracts could really cut out the middleman in all sorts of industries.
Exactly. They have the potential to streamline all sorts of agreements and transactions.
Okay, so we've talked about the good stuff.
Yeah.
But I know there are some concerns about blockchain too. What are some of the downsides?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is energy consumption. Some blockchain networks, especially those that use a proof-of-work system like Bitcoin, require massive amounts of computing power to function. And that can have a significant environmental impact.
I've heard about that. So blockchain isn't exactly the most eco-friendly technology.
Well, it depends on the specific blockchain. There are alternative systems like proof of stake that are much more energy efficient. But yeah, energy consumption is definitely something to be aware of.
Okay, so what about other concerns? Are there any other potential drawbacks to using blockchain?
Another challenge is scalability. As more and more people and businesses start using blockchain technology, the networks need to be able to handle a huge volume of transactions quickly and efficiently.
So it's like a traffic jam on the blockchain highway.
Exactly. If the network gets too congested, transactions can slow down or even fail to go through. And that can be a problem for businesses that rely on blockchain for real-time transactions.
Okay, so there are definitely some challenges that need to be addressed, but it sounds like blockchain is still evolving and improving all the time.
Absolutely. It's still a relatively young technology, and there's a lot of innovation happening in this space.
So it sounds like the Wild West of tech right now.
In a lot of ways, yeah. But that's also what makes it so exciting. There's so much potential for blockchain to disrupt industries and change the way we do business.
I love that. All right, well, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground today. We've learned about how blockchain works, some of its potential applications, and even some of the challenges it faces. So just to recap, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the most important thing to understand is that blockchain is a secure and transparent way to record and verify transactions, and that has implications for all sorts of industries, from finance to supply chain management to even healthcare.
It's amazing to think about all the possibilities. And it sounds like blockchain is only going to become more prevalent in our lives in the years to come.
I think that's a safe bet. It's definitely a technology to watch.
Well said. All right. So knowing what you now know about blockchain, what industries do you think are going to be most impacted by it in the next 5 years? That's something to think about.
It is indeed.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. So share them with us on social media and be sure to tag us. And of course, a huge thank you again to our sponsor, TechViews10x.com, for supporting this deep dive. Don't forget to check them out for all your tech news and insights. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world of tech.
Until next time, stay curious.
See ya.